I'll kick off by saying chronic diseases are the leading cause of death and disability worldwide. They affect now 6 in 10 people. We all know a loved one that's been impacted by either cancer, depression, diabetes, inflammatory bowel disease, heart, or another chronic disease. But what you might not know is that your gut health, and more specifically your gut microbiome, which is the trillions of organisms that live in your gut, are actually a key missing piece in resolving many of those chronic diseases. And because of that, our investment thesis at Microba is that these organisms represent one of the biggest untapped opportunities to improve human health. And that will see microbiome testing and therapeutics become a routine part of healthcare. And at Microba, we believe we've got the best technology in the world to unlock that. So with that foundation, we're continuing to execute on establishing a dominant global position in both microbiome testing and in therapeutic development from the microbiome to capture this opportunity. Next slide, please. This is our standard disclaimer. Next slide. Our commercial model to capture that opportunity is summarised here. We deliver testing services globally to clinicians, consumers and research clients together with market-leading distribution partners. Those services build our large proprietary data bank with consented and de-identified customer data. And then we mine that large data bank to discover and develop multiple novel therapeutics to ultimately progress and execute big pharma out-licensing transactions on those assets. Next slide, please. Microba is a data-driven biotech company. We're commercial stage and already delivering global revenues. And we continue to deliver strong year-on-year revenue growth. We've established global microbiome testing distribution partners with market leaders driving a scalable global testing business. And we believe that we have the most valuable microbiome data bank in the world. And from that data bank, we've now established 3 therapeutic programs with our first lead drug candidate targeting ulcerative colitis progressing towards an upcoming phase 1 clinical trial. So this is a fast growth emerging market, which we're capturing with world-leading technology, supported by peer-reviewed publications and our 2 co-founders who are world leaders in this field. And underpinning all of this, we have a truly world-class team, including one of Australia's most distinguished clinical scientists, Professor Ian Fraser, inventor of Gardasil, the cervical cancer vaccine, which now does over $5 billion in annual sales for Merck. Next slide, please. Underpinning all this, before I jump ahead, we also have multiple large strategic shareholders, including global medical diagnostics leader, Sonic Healthcare, and New York Stock Exchange listed synthetic biology leader, Ginkgo Bioworks. So to give you a bit more of a summary of the company, I'll do that in a moment. But I firstly want to highlight some of the significant milestones from the last quarter. So kicking off with our testing services, I just mentioned Sonic Healthcare. They're the 2nd largest healthcare company in Australia with a $14 billion market cap. And they took a 20% stake in Microba and kicked off an international distribution partnership, which is covering 7 major markets. We also continue to expand access to our testing across Europe with Europe's largest medical diagnostics company, Synlab, through signing, delivering, and first sales in both Italy and Portugal. And for our therapeutic programs, we had, for our inflammatory bowel disease program, positive formal feedback from the FDA for our inflammatory bowel disease preclinical package, supporting our upcoming phase 1 clinical trial. And we progressed manufacturing all the way through to encapsulated drug product ready to trigger GMP manufacture, also ready for that phase 1 clinical trial. And finally, we just released results for our immuno-oncology drug development program. So we had our first positive animal data showing a significant reduction in tumour size in a mouse model of melanoma. Next slide, please. So firstly, I'll take you through our testing services, which is driving our global revenue growth, and then switch over to summarise the rapid advancement of our therapeutic programs. Next slide, please. We're building a leading microbiome testing company through a globally scalable distribution partner model. And that distribution partner model enables our partners to access our platform and leading technology to launch and deliver a microbiome test powered by Microba. We have carefully constructed and continue to grow a really powerful distribution partner network to deliver our testing technology into the hands of clinicians and patients globally. Next slide, please. And this is what that leading bench of healthcare distribution partners looks like today. Sonic is a significant addition to our bench of leading healthcare and pathology partners. And now together, Sonic, SynLab, Genova, and G42 Healthcare provide us with strong access into major healthcare markets globally. Sonic with UK, Germany, Switzerland, Belgium, Australia, New Zealand, the United States. SynLab, access to broader Europe and Latin America. Genova with deeper penetration into the US, and G42 Healthcare covering the Middle East and the GCC region. Next slide, please. These partners now provide us with access into 35 countries, and most of this came together with new partnerships last year. And now with the addition of Italy and Portugal, just signed with and commenced with SynLab, we've activated operations into 7 of those 35 countries. Next slide, please. So with those foundations, growth lays ahead of us as we progressively operationalise and activate these partners in their countries to provide Microba-powered testing to clinicians and their patients. Next slide, please. So that's our services. And in addition to growing international revenues, those services also generate high-value data, which enables us to discover and develop novel therapeutics. And we're making strong progress across all 3 of our therapeutic programs. Next slide, please. Based on our world-leading technology and proprietary data bank, we've established a data-driven platform for drug discovery from the microbiome, which is generating multiple potent therapeutic candidates. And this is just a nice overview of how our data-driven platform works to go from our large proprietary data population data bank on the left through to therapeutic leads, preclinical assessment, and into human clinical trials. And that's exactly where we are today. Next slide, please. We have 3 key programs spanning inflammatory bowel disease, cancer immunotherapy, and autoimmune diseases. For our inflammatory bowel disease, which is targeting a novel therapy for patients suffering from ulcerative colitis, with manufacturing scale-up and pre-IND now complete, we're progressing to HREC submission, GMP manufacturing, and ultimately phase 1 commencement, which is scheduled before the end of this financial year. Importantly, this will transition the company from a preclinical company to a clinical stage company, which is an important advancement in Microba's therapeutic development activities. For our cancer immunotherapy program, we're targeting the development of a therapeutic to improve response rates in cancer patients receiving immune checkpoint inhibitor therapy. A big opportunity. The leading immune checkpoint inhibitor from Merck, called Keytruda, did $5 billion in sales last quarter. And we just received compelling first animal model results from our therapeutic leads showing a significant reduction in tumour size for mice treated with Microba's leads in combination with standard of care immune checkpoint inhibitor therapy. So we'll act on these results with urgency and now progress to develop up a deeper preclinical package towards clinical testing. And finally, for our autoimmune disease program, we're targeting 3 autoimmune disorders: lupus, psoriatic arthritis, and autoimmune liver diseases in partnership with Ginkgo Bioworks. Ginkgo are a Boston-headquartered synthetic biology leader with around a $3 billion market cap, and we're a cornerstone investor in our IPO. This program is progressing quickly, and we expect first in vitro data to be available this quarter to share an update with investors. Next slide, please. Alongside our progress, we recently saw a major catalyst for the sector in November last year. We saw the first FDA approval of a live microbiome drug. Live microbiome drugs, or as the FDA have defined, live biotherapeutic products, are an entirely new class of drug. And next quarter, we're expecting the second approval from a company called Seres Therapeutics. And these first 2 drugs are important to show a clear path to market, but are both what we consider to be first generation and based on fecal donor materials. And they're also targeting an unmet need in recurrent C. difficile infection. The big opportunity is in rationally developed biological drugs, which can be manufactured at scale to treat millions of patients globally and address major unmet needs in chronic disease settings. And Microba's therapeutic assets, we believe, are at the forefront of this. So with a clear regulatory path and our transition into the clinic, we believe this puts Microba in a strong position to develop these assets and partner with major pharma companies. Next slide, please. So overall, with our world-class team and technology, we continue to make significant progress in capturing this rapidly emerging market. Next slide. We have a range of important milestones over the next 6 months, which will advance the company and unlock value for shareholders. As at the end of the calendar year, we had $42 million in the bank. So the company's in a strong position to execute on its services growth strategy and advance its therapeutic programs into clinical development. I recently just got back from several weeks in the US, including the JP Morgan Healthcare Conference, and there was a really noticeable positive change in the temperature with major pharma companies, which was very clear following the FDA approval, which has provided now a clear path to market for these new drugs. So I genuinely feel like we're in the right place at the right time and with the market-leading technology. So very excited and optimistic about the company's future, and in particular, what will be unlocked for shareholders over the next 24 months. So I'll stop there and hand back to Tim for questions.
Thanks, Luke, and congratulations on the significant progress you've made since you last on the webinar. You mentioned Sonic Healthcare. It's not every day they take an equity position in Australian biotech. They've got a 19.9% position, but they've also got 5% in terms of options that are in the money. Does that potentially present a change of control transaction moving forward, so Sonic could take control?
No, we don't think so, Tim, and it's certainly not the intention. The intention is strategic alignment as we execute on this global distribution arrangement with Sonic. But in terms of their ability to influence, future transactions and opportunities in front of us, clearly they have strong interest in the services side and the future of that. But the future of the therapeutics business well and truly lays in the hands of major pharma companies. And we can't see Sonic being misaligned with that. We spend a lot of time working through the strategy of the company, and we have complete alignment.
And beyond the equity position, obviously there's a strategic alliance here. So how will Sonic help deliver your testing technology globally?
We have a clear partner success program. So they've got 7 major countries that they operate in. So we're progressing through this partner success program for each of those countries. And what that looks like is, firstly, we ensure that the scope and nature of the distribution agreement is right, clear responsibilities, fees, pricing, volume commitments, legals, all that. Once the agreements are in place, we implement our partner success program that covers, the technical API integration, delivering the reports, the logistics, wet lab implementation, all of that. And then the sales and marketing activation, marketing material support, team training, boots on the ground support to actually roll this out with key opinion leaders and practice. And this is all progressing well, but we have a 2-stage program where we're focusing first on Germany and Australia, and then we'll progress to the other countries. But what that looks like in terms of volume and revenue, that really, we believe, starts to impact next financial year.
And of course, several days ago, you announced a US distribution agreement with Luminary Health. How will this impact the business going forward, both strategically and financially?
So Luminary are an established business generating testing in the genomics field out of California. And they've got a fantastic business. We did a lot of work to establish alignment on where they want to take the test in market. So for us, they've committed to a year 1 commitment. So that's committed revenue, of which a small amount will be realised in this financial year and then the majority in next financial year. But really, that's an opportunity for them to demonstrate to us what they can do. And then there's a scope, and there's been discussion around what subsequent phases look like, which could be much larger than the year one commitment. And so the way I look at Luminary is, another channel into the US market. It's a big market, and we're going to need a lot of great partners to get the job done there. But also some fantastic committed revenues for year one.
And Luke, time for one more question. You touched on the animal cancer program. Can you give us just a little bit more colour before we finish up?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I said before, our cancer immunotherapy program is targeting the development of a therapeutic to improve response rates in cancer patients that are receiving immune checkpoint inhibitor therapy. So if you take a step back on immune checkpoint inhibitor therapy, what's that? Well, it's been a breakthrough in cancer care for many tumour types, but unfortunately, on average, 70% of patients don't respond. And there's a key difference that's been observed between responders and non-responders to those drugs in terms of their gut microbiome. And now there's been multiple interventional studies using a fecal microbiome transplant, which is a relatively crude method, but it's demonstrated the ability to change the microbiome and turn a non-responder into a responder. So the opportunity from here is to identify the key components of the microbiome which drive that effect and develop an effective adjuvant therapy to improve immune checkpoint inhibitor response. And that's what we've just got our first results of. So we did some work last year to complete a big data analysis and identify some leads using our therapeutic platform. We then proceeded to commence preclinical animal model experiments in a refractory melanoma model, which best reflected that non-responsive patient population. And we saw really compelling results in that first model, which we just announced. And that now gives us confidence to continue to invest and accelerate that program towards clinical development. So I also see it's a really great validation of our data-driven platform, delivering another compelling set of leads in another chronic disease setting.
Great, Luke. Congratulations on your progress over the last 12 months. I think the share price is up around 80%. We'll follow with interest. Have a nice weekend.
Thank you, Tim.